Hiring and firing people. It's part of every manager's job. The reason it's so much in the front of this series of videos is because it's the one thing nobody wants to do. We said in the first video, the reason you want to become a manager or director of IT is because it pays well, offers a flexible career path for you, and it can be very enjoyable. But it pays well because it takes a certain mindset. It's not always fun. Hiring people can be fun. It's a tedious job, but firing people, rarely fun. You'll get that from time to time. Every 30, 40 employees maybe you've got there over time, and there's one you just can't wait to fire them. It feels good. Most of the time it doesn't. And sometimes it can go really south. When you're hiring a warehouse worker or fast food workers or semi-skilled even workers like we've talked about before, it's still no fun. But, you can replace them fast, and these things happen. Nobody likes those jobs, or a lot of people don't like those jobs anyway. When you're hiring an IT person, a very maybe competent developer, it's rough. And it's not just the personal thing that gets into it. I've worked for companies before, and because I've done this for so long, where hire people, the owners of the company will ask me, hey, can you fire him for me? Because nobody likes to do it. I don't like doing that on behalf of somebody else, but I've done it because you have to. When you're firing IT people, what you have to be aware of is how it affects your company as a whole. Its reputation on Glassdoor and Indeed, you just really got to watch it. This is especially true. I'm in the Cincinnati-Dayton area, and this is a smaller market than people think. And over the last 25 years, I can't tell you how many times I've run into people that I'd worked with 10, 15 years ago. And this is that way in most cities. New York and LA, Dallas, these cities are big enough, and if your company's huge, you can kind of get away with that. But even big companies really generally do a good job of terminating workers. But especially if you're in a small company, especially if you're in a mid to small market, you almost have to offer them a severance package. You just don't want to show them the door and say, we no longer need your services, get your stuff and get the hell out of here. It's a bad look. And it's a bad look for your team that's left behind. They probably had friends with some of those guys. And it's a bad look outside your doors. People will write bad reviews about you on Glassdoor and Indeed. And you get those reviews. People think that doesn't matter. It does. If your reviews end up with you having about 3 stars, you're going to have a tough time finding the best and brightest employees. You may not be able to do it at all. So when you do this, be really, really careful, especially if it's just an ordinary layoff or something like that. Things are slowed down. If the person's been with you even for a year or two, if it's a layoff type firing, you owe them something. They didn't do that to you. The business slowed down. Try to give them a couple weeks severance at least. The goodwill it'll buy you will save you way more money than the few $1,000s it's going to cost you. So that's step one, is be careful about it. When you're firing somebody, do everything you can to make that transition out easy and comfortable for both sides. It's never going to be that way for them. And often it won't be that way for you, but things happen, you have to let people go. Try to do it as calmly as you can. It's part of the not making the environment contentious for your team, but it is also really good for the company. Do a good job with that, and you'll find it's easier to hire people going forward, and your team knows that, if it doesn't work out, at least they don't just kick me to the curb. But sometimes hiring and firing in particular, goes way worse than you think. Before we get too much into this second part, if you think that somebody could become violent, get security involved. If you don't have that in your small company, there's outside security firms you can hire, just one guy to be with you when that happens. Don't risk life or limb over this. Get help. But in 25 years, I've never had that happen. What I have happened is it still go really badly. People cry and sob, and I have kids. And people start yelling, and there's really no way to tell when this is going to happen. I fired people before I thought it was going to be awful, and then the guy says, "Oh, what took you so long? I haven't been on time in a year." And so that happens. And other times you think, "Oh, this guy's going to see it coming," and they don't take it well. And when that happens, you should be prepared before ever going into there that it might happen. And one of the things I've had to do before, and you will too, if you manage good people, highly technical people, smart people long enough, you're going to have to fire somebody that's not prepared for it, not ready. And you have to explain to them, hey, look, this is the needs of the business right now, and I understand you're in a tough spot, but if I keep you on here, the rest of the team's going to be, the whole company's going to be in a tough spot. I can't sacrifice 5 other people for you. It's not going well. Sometimes people will understand that. If they don't and it just gets real emotional and you just can't get out of it, all you can do is stand up, walk towards the door, and say, hey, I'm really sorry. We've done everything we can. I'll do what I can to give you a reference maybe. Just try to get the situation calmed out as much as you can. Walk them to the door. And just try to forget about it. It's hard to do, and I've seen more than one person, sadly, that would have been a good manager otherwise. And after they fired the first person, the first one didn't go well, and they said, I don't want to be the manager anymore. I can't do this. I don't know how anybody could do this, and they don't manage anymore. But what I said before is true. If you keep an employee who's not contributing and dragging everybody down, at some point, all you're doing is sacrificing everybody else for this one person. And that's not a noble endeavor. That's not a good thing you're doing. So it's a tough choice, I get it. But sometimes that tough choice for one person is the better choice for all the rest. And it's quite necessary. You're never going to escape being a manager for very long and not having to fire someone. It's going to happen. When it goes south like that, again, the first order of business is preparation. Understand that you don't quite know going into this how it's going to work out. So be prepared for what you're going to say about, sacrificing the rest of the team for the person, helping them out with reference if it's feasible, and do the best you can. And the second point is, if you think this person could get violent in any way, don't do it by yourself. There's no reason to be a hero. You don't know what some people are capable of. If there's a tendency to that, or if you have a suspicion of that, have a quick exit strategy to get out of that office and get somebody else between you and the disgruntled employee. It's never happened to me, but I know people that it's happened to, and it gets pretty rough. So prepare for that as well. At the same time, about 60-70% of them, I guess, kind of guessing there, do seem to go okay. People can tell when the business is going downhill, when bad decisions have been made and business is slowing. Sometimes it's out of your department's control. Sales are down. Things of that nature happen too, and people tend to know that's coming and do okay with it. Never an easy topic, never an easy discussion to have. So get used to it early.